Hi guys, welcome back. I hope you guys are doing great. I hope you're not moving around the streets anyhow. Yeah, so today I'm just going to take a look at two examples in relation to what we did in the previous video, just first to understand what we're talking about. So our first problem is telling us to find the missing number in an array. Just think of a situation where you are given a set of numbers and they tell you to find missing value and using code. So let's just see how we can go about it, and just for us to understand what we're talking about. Yeah, so in our case, like before you write the code, the first thing you have to do is you have to declare the argument statements. These statements are just the main thing telling us on what kind of output we want, what exactly we want. So in our case, we want to get the missing number. So we can just say our argument statement is get missing no. And this missing number contains an array. The argument statement we've declared contains an array, and in that array, that's why the missing number is. And in our case, we can call the missing numbers n. And we have to declare also the size of the array as an argument statement. So in our case, the size of array will be I. That's because that's the standard value we use. So let's say int getting missing no, then you say int a, which is the name of the variable, and int n. So int I, which is the size of the variable, comma total. Then for us to find this n, let's say we're to solve this problem by hand, not using a computer, not using anything. So if we're to solve this problem by hand, we can just say total is equal to n plus 1 times n plus 2 divided by 2. In this formula, the n represents the number of elements missing in that set. So in our case, we just want to find one digit. So if we're to solve this problem by hand, not using any computer, not using anything. So since the missing value is 1, we'll say 1 plus 1, which is 2, multiplied by 1 plus 2, which is 3. That gives us 6 in total. Divide by 2. And the answer we're going to get is 3. So normally this is the output we're supposed to get, but let's just see if really that's the correct answer. So our condition in this case, as we've already said, the size of the array is I. So we're going to say I is equal to 0, because like the size of an array before you put any elements in that set, it's supposed to be 0. For any array that doesn't have any elements, the size of it is supposed to be 0. So our condition is going to be for I is equal to 0, and this I is less than n, which is the value you want to find. And this I will be added. On each, whatever step you take, it has to add by 1. Every time, whatever step you take, it has to add by 1. Then the total we're going to find is the size of the variable. Then you return the total, which is the value we're looking for right now. So let's take a look at this example using numbers. In our case, I've used just a minute. In our case, I've used numbers from 1 to 6, but I haven't written the missing value, which is 3 in this case. So we can say int a, which is the name of the variable, is equals to set of 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. As we've already seen, 3 is missing, but let's just prove if really that's the missing value. Int miss is equals to get miss no, which is our argument statement. A, which is our variable, the name of the array, comma 5, because the 5 represents the number of elements that are available at that moment. Then we print the digit, comma miss, want to find the missing value. Then you get the char. So the get char meaning we just want to return the character missing or the element missing in that set. So the answer, as we can see, the answer we have is 3. Yeah. So let's take a look at the next example. We see also how we can go about it. Just a minute. The next example is telling us to find the minimum distance between two numbers or 2 points. So in our case, obviously we all know for us to find the minimum, for us to find the distance, well, we need, points or coordinates, which is x and y. And but it's just a bit different in our case because, we're doing programming. So the first thing, as I've already said, we need to declare the argument statement. But before we declare the argument statement, in this case, since we're dealing with something to do with mathematics, so as you've already seen, on the include part, I've put the limits.h, which is meant for the maximum value, because in this case we have to find the limit. Like, you're starting from one point and you're ending at one point, meaning there's a range or limit. So we have to include that part, that declaration in short, as already talked about in the other video. So in our case, as I've already said, that we have to declare the argument statement. In our case, our argument statement is minimum distance. So I just wrote it as min dist. And also this one contains an array of integers. And in this case, our distance, which is n, but this distance has points, which is x to y. Then also have to declare the size of the array as an argument statement. But in this case, as I've already said, we're given 2 points. So meaning there are two different arrays. We have two different sets of numbers. So the first thing we're going to do after declaring the argument statement, we're going to declare the size of the arrays, the two arrays. In this case, we've said I and j, because as I've already said, those are the standards, the standard values we use. So int I, comma j, you can also write it as int I, semicolon, int j, semicolon, but just to reduce your work, like you don't need to stress yourself, so you can still write it this way, it's still correct. So int I, comma j, and these are our sizes of arrays, our two arrays. Then the next thing you're going to say is now int min distance, which is equal to int maximum, meaning we're starting from one point and ending at the other point. Then our condition, as I've already said, a size of an array has to start from 0, as long as that array doesn't have any elements. The total size of that array when it's empty, it's 0. No matter the case, it has to be 0. But with time, maybe think of a situation whereby you have subsets, like talk of subsets in mathematics. Then the size of that set has to start from whatever number of elements are in the subset. That's the size of the total set. So the first condition we're going to give is the condition for the first array, which is the size of I. The size of I. I is equal to 0, as I've already said, and this I is less than n, and has to add on each step you take. Then the second condition will be the one for j. This condition, as I've already said, this is the main set. So I is just a subset of j. So this j, even when this j, we can't say it's empty because it has a subset. So even the size of it can be 0. That's why we've said j is equal to I plus 1, and this j is still less than n, and this j adds on every step taken. Then the next thing that we're going to say now is we're still giving conditions to our code. So if x is equal to the size of the first array, and y is equal to the size of the second array, which is j, or y is equal to this the size of the first array, which is I, and x is equal to the size of the second array, which is j, and the minimum distance, which is greater than the absolute value, which is I minus j, then the mean distance is equal to absolute value I minus j, then you return the mean distance. So in this case, the if condition here, it doesn't matter which one is larger than the other. X could either be larger than y, or y could be larger than x, but just to make things, like, just for his understanding, we can just take y as the larger value, then we return the minimum distance, then that's going to be our answer, as we can see. So let's see, let's try to use now numbers to understand what this code is all about. As you can see, we've said int array is equals to those numbers we've put in the number of, how can I say, the elements of a set. Then we are going to say int n, which is the value we want to find now. We want to find the value of n, which is the minimum distance. We're going to say the size of array. And as we can see, how many elements are there? There are 12 elements, as we can see. The size of array, the total size of array divided by the first element of that set. And as we've already seen, the total size of the array is 12, and the first element of that set is 3. So if we are to divide this 12 by 3, we're going to find 4. So normally our answer is supposed to be 4. Let's see if really the answer is going to be 4. Let's take a look at the solution. So you say print minimum distance between digit, could be digit, let me just say between digit x and digit y, and the answer is going to be 4, like in our case. But let's just try to compile and run this code to see if really what we're talking about is right. So as we can see, the answer is 4. Yeah, so as we can see, the answer is 4. So I hope you guys got one or two things. I just thought of going through what we did in the previous video by sharing these two examples. Bye bye.